Earth's Last Chance. The stars outside Captain Alina Morrow's ship, the Odyssey Dawn, looked peaceful. But inside, tension was suffocating. Alina stared out at a shimmering blue and green world under twin suns, Zerelia, home to the Zool, the most terrifying alien species in the galaxy. No human ship had ever returned from Zerelia. Those who tried to talk to the Zero Queen, they just vanished. This ancient, powerful hive empire didn't trade, didn't talk, they only conquered. And now Alina was going there, not to fight, not to spy. She was going to give them a gift. Earth's last desperate hope. Just 3 weeks ago, a Zero fleet had appeared near Terra Nova, our first colony beyond Pluto. They didn't answer calls, didn't attack, just watched. Silently. That alone was terrifying. The Earth Alliance knew this behavior. The Zoro were measuring us, deciding if we were worth keeping or wiping out. The Galactic Council couldn't help. Other alien races were too scared of the Zoro Queen. One ambassador just shrugged and said, "If you want to live, impress her. But how do you impress a queen who's seen everything?" Alina sat in the briefing room, surrounded by panicked scientists, historians, and diplomats. "They don't care about weapons," Admiral Shang said. "They've seen better." Dr. Ka, a linguist, added, "They don't care about technology. They're older than our solar system." "So what do they care about?" Alina asked. Silence. Then an old historian, Professor Chow Harry, whispered, "Maybe. Something they've forgotten that sparked an idea." For 2 weeks, Alina worked with artists and memory engineers. They searched Earth's cultures for something simple, honest, something that showed who humans really were. They found it, a child's music box from centuries ago. Now Alina held that small, handcrafted object. As her ship approached Zerelia, the music box felt like everything. No weapon, no code. Just an old Earth lullaby recorded on tiny brass pins. You had to wind it by hand, open it, and it would play a soft, gentle tune, something a mother would play to help a baby sleep. To most, it was nothing. But that was the whole point. The offering, the Odyssey Dawn, reached orbit and waited. For an hour, no signal came. Then, a sharp, high-pitched sound cut through the silence, a frequency not meant for human ears. The crew winced. Machines translated, "One human only. No weapons, no lies. Bring your offering." Alina stepped into the landing pod alone. A simple, white uniform, no armor, no weapons. Just a translation chip and the music box. The doors closed. The pod detached. Gravity vanished as she plummeted through alien skies. Zerelia was nothing like Earth. The sky was dark green. The land glowed with bioluminescent forests and black crystal towers. Strange flying creatures circled the city as the pod descended. Into a giant hive structure, like a mountain carved by insects. The landing pad was silent. No guards, just one Zero drone. Tall, 6 thin limbs, shining black armor. Its eyes glowed pale green as it looked at her. It didn't speak, it just turned and walked. Alina followed. They moved through twisting halls of living stone. The air was thick and sweet, like flowers mixed with smoke. Other drones watched from the shadows, unmoving. Finally they entered the crystal court, a huge, shimmering dome filled with green-blue light. Strange glowing symbols pulsed on the walls. Hundreds of drones stood perfectly still, and in the center, on a throne of bone and glass, sat the Ural Queen. She was enormous, at least 12 feet tall, with wide, segmented arms and long, folded wings. Twisted horns crowned her head, and her mandibles clicked softly. Her eyes were ancient, not cold, not cruel, but filled with something worse, boredom. She had seen everything, and she didn't expect this human to show her anything new. Alina stepped forward, heart racing, legs stiff. She didn't kneel. She reached into her small pack and pulled out the music box. "This," she said softly, "is our offering." A whisper more vibration than sound rippled through the drones. The queen leaned forward slightly, clicking her claws. Alina placed the music box on the crystal floor, slowly wound it up, and flipped the lid open. The sound was tiny, delicate. A simple melody floated into the silent chamber. It echoed off the crystal walls, soft, slow, full of warmth. Notes danced like snowflakes in the air. The Zural drones didn't move. Their heads tilted. The queen froze. Her limbs, which had shifted every few seconds, now held perfectly still. Her breathing stopped. Her eyes locked onto the tiny spinning cylinder, as if she were seeing a ghost. The music continued, note after note, sweet and calm, filling the room. One of the drones let out a low hum, matching the tune. Another joined. Then silence again. The queen had not moved. Not a word, not a breath. Alina stood still, barely daring to blink. Had she offended them? Or had she shown them something they didn't understand? The melody slowed. The final note rang out like a bell in deep water. The nothing, silence, Alina waited still. The queen didn't move. She didn't attack, didn't dismiss. She just stared, frozen. The chamber held its breath. Suddenly a high chime echoed from the far side of the court. A small drone, different from the others, smaller, sleeker, scuttled in. It carried the music box gently in its claws and brought it back to the queen. She didn't touch it. She didn't have to. She just looked at it dot, and then she spoke. Her voice was deep, layered, almost like a song itself. "Where did you find this memory?" Alina's eyes widened. The queen had spoken. In English, the echo of a song. Captain Alina Morrow stood silently, her heart pounding, but her face calm. The Zural queen, still as a statue, shimmered under the crystal light. The music box's final note still seemed to hang in the air. Then the queen had spoken. "Where did you find this memory?" The court was utterly silent. No drone moved. Every eye was on Alina. Alina took a small breath. "This music box," she said slowly, clearly, "comes from Earth, from one of our oldest cultures. It was made hundreds of years ago. It is not a weapon. It is not a tool. It is a feeling." The queen blinked slowly. Her long, sharp fingers reached out and gently touched the open music box. She didn't press buttons or open mechanisms. She just placed a claw near it and stood still. "Why does it speak to me?" the queen asked. Her voice was no longer bored. It was confused, almost curious. Alina looked up at her. "Maybe because your people once had music, too." The queen's eyes narrowed. "We have no music. We never had. We are born for silence and command. Harmony is survival. Sound is noise." "Then why did you freeze?" Alina asked gently. Why did your people stop moving? Why are they still listening? The queen turned her head slightly. Her drones, surrounding the court, still hadn't moved. Their heads were tilted, glowing eyes staring. At the box. They are confused, the queen said. They do not know what they feel. Feel? Alina asked carefully. So they do feel something? The queen didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked back to her throne. Minutes passed in silence. Alina didn't speak again. She didn't want to push too far. She remembered the warning. Impress her, don't insult her. Finally, the queen spoke again. In our deepest memory cells there are shapes, echoes, sounds we do not understand. Some are images of wind or color or movement. Some are sounds like the one you brought. Alina's heart jumped. She stepped forward slowly. That's called memory. You carry it from your ancestors, even if your people forgot. Why would we forget? The queen asked. Maybe, Alina said, because your people changed. You became stronger, more united. But something old remained inside you. A part you sealed away. The queen was quiet for a long time. The room was thick with tension. You speak of weakness, she finally said. Emotion. Distraction. These things break unity. Alina shook her head. Not always. Sometimes they create strength of a different kind. Music isn't just sound. It's connection. Between people. Between moments. The queen looked at her again. Humans fight, but they also sing. They suffer, but they also create. We remember things with stories, songs, and gifts. That's what makes us more than just animals. We are not perfect, but we try to remember what matters. There was a long silence. The queen tapped the music box lightly, and it began to play again. The soft, slow melody filled the chamber once more. This time some of the drones began to hum. A strange sound, not like human voices, but close. It was like a soft vibration, deep and gentle. Alina stared in awe. They were copying the tune. They were remembering. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. One of the drones in the back snapped, speared against the floor, and shouted something in the Zuru tongue. It sounded angry. Others followed. Some drones backed away from the music. Some covered their ears. Some began to hiss. The queen raised a hand. They stopped immediately. But the feeling in the room had changed. There was fear. One drone stepped forward. His body was larger than the others. His armor had sharp red marks. Perhaps a commander. He spoke in English, his voice rough and forced. This gift is dangerous. It breaks the stillness. It weakens the hive. The queen said nothing. Alina stepped forward. It doesn't weaken you. It wakes you up. Silence. The drone shouted. You will not poison us with your human confusion. The queen raised her hand again. This time her voice cut through like steel. She brings no poison. The room fell silent again. Then, to everyone's surprise, the queen stood from her throne. All drones knelt at once, except the red-marked one, who stayed standing. You doubt me? The queen asked. He didn't answer, but his body was stiff, his claws flexed. Then go, she said coldly. Leave my court, return to the deep chambers, and remember your place. The drone hissed, then turned and marched out, with several others following. A schism had begun. After they left, the queen turned back to Alina. You have done something no other species has done. You touched something inside us that was buried for ages. Alina didn't know what to say. "Tell me," the queen said. "What do humans hope to gain by bringing us this gift?" "Peace," Alina answered. "An understanding. We don't want to fight you. We want to learn." The queen studied her for a moment, then spoke slowly. "You will not be harmed. You will remain here. You will teach us what this music is, what emotion means, what memory is." Alina blinked. "You want me to stay?" "Yes, for now. You're not a prisoner. You are a voice, one we lost long ago." Chapter 4. The Seeds of Change Later. Alina was taken to a private chamber, not a cell but a simple stone room with glowing light and cushions. She was given alien, but edible, food. She sat quietly, thinking. The queen hadn't destroyed her. The music had done something impossible. It had moved the unmovable. And yet Alina felt uneasy. Some of the Zero were not pleased. Some feared what had been awakened. And the queen. She had spoken of memories of a song deep inside her. Could it be that this exact melody had once belonged to the Zerel themselves? Was it not a human gift after all? Was it a return? Alina opened her small journal and began writing. She knew now this mission was far from over. She had brought a gift, but what she had really given them was a seed of something powerful and possibly dangerous. The memory wells captain, Alina Morrow, woke to the sound of humming. Not the music box, though. When she opened her eyes, the room was dim, filled with soft green light. She sat up. The humming was coming from outside her door, low, rhythmic, almost like a song. She stood, walked to the door, and placed her hand on the smooth stone. No handles. Zero doors opened on command, or by some strange organic signal. After a moment it opened. Outside stood 3 small drones. Unlike the guards, these looked younger, slimmer, less armored. They were holding strange instruments, glowing with soft blue light. One of them pressed a hand to its chest and made a gesture. A greeting. Alina smiled gently and nodded. "Hello." The drones made chirping sounds, then pressed the instruments to their necks. A translated voice echoed from a small speaker. "We wish to learn the song." Alina blinked in surprise. "You want me to teach you?" They nodded. One stepped forward and placed a crystal pad on the floor. A small hologram of the music box's tune began to play, like notes floating in the air. The drones tried to hum along, copying the melody. Their sounds weren't perfect, but they were trying. For a race that once valued only silence and obedience, this was something new. Alina spent the next hour teaching them the basic parts of music: sound, rhythm, pause. The drones recorded every note, every breath. They were fast learners, curious, almost childlike as they practiced. More drones arrived. Some watched quietly, others joined in. Word had spread. The song was changing the hive. Later that day, a message came. A drone with silver markings led her back to the queen's chamber. This time the court was smaller. Many drones were missing. The queen sat on her throne, but her posture was different, less rigid. "You are changing us," she said. "Me too," Alina replied softly. "But it is done," the queen said. "We have begun to remember." Alina stepped forward. "What exactly are you remembering?" The queen looked at her for a long moment, then raised a claw. A large crystal at the center of the chamber began to glow. Images appeared, ancient, rough, like broken memories. Scenes of insect-like beings dancing in circles, strange drums, flickers of light pulsing in patterns. A tall, female Zuril holding a curved instrument, almost like a harp, and in the background a tune, very soft, very old, very familiar. Alina's heart stopped. It was almost the same lullaby. It's from before the hive, the queen said. From when we were many minds, many voices. You had music, Alina whispered. The queen nodded slowly. Long ago, before war, before silence. What happened? We evolved, the queen said simply. We became one, and in unity we destroyed what we called distraction. But it wasn't a distraction, Alina said. It was a part of who you were. Yes, the queen replied, her voice almost quiet. And perhaps we lost something we should not have. Suddenly a loud alarm rang through the chamber. Red lights flashed. On the walls, the queen's head snapped to the side. They come, she said. Who? Alina asked. The queen stood. The old guard, the deep minds, they reject the change. Before Alina could speak, the chamber doors burst open. A dozen warrior drones entered, heavily armored, eyes glowing red. At their front stood the same commander who had opposed the music. We warned you, he hissed in his native tongue. The infection spreads. We must cleanse it. You forget your place, the queen said sharply. The commander did not kneel. You are no longer the mind we serve. The queen raised a claw, but the commander was faster. He signaled, and chaos broke loose. Drones from both sides clashed inside the court. Some tried to protect the queen, others attacked with sharp limbs and electric spears. Alina ducked behind the throne as sparks flew. One of the young drones who had learned music ran to her side. Come, it said, grabbing her hand. We must escape. They raced through hidden tunnels under the court as the sounds of battle echoed. Above, the drone led Alina deep into the hive. The halls grew darker, older, more organic. Vines covered the walls. Strange glowing fungi lit their path. Where are we going? Alina asked between breaths. To the memory wells, the drone said. The oldest place. The place where the queen first heard the sound. After several turns and drops, they arrived. The chamber was wide and quiet. Pools of silver liquid covered the floor, and above them, ancient crystals floated, humming softly. The air was warm and full of whispers. Alina stepped toward the largest pool. Reflections danced across its surface, images, sounds, echoes of the past. As she knelt beside it, a vision formed, a younger, Zuril queen, not yet crowned, sitting alone by a pool just like this. She hummed a soft melody, the same one Alina had brought. A mother stood beside her, older, gentle, smiling. She placed a hand on the child's head and whispered, "This is our last gift. Never forget." Then the image vanished. Alina sat back. In shock, the melody wasn't just similar. It was Zurilia. It had been passed down in secret, a hidden seed buried in their DNA, their dreams, their old machines. And somehow it had made its way to Earth, maybe through ancient contact, maybe through the stars themselves. It wasn't just a gift from humans. It was a reminder. A lost memory returned. Behind her, the young drone placed the music box on the floor. It wound it slowly. The melody began again, echoing softly through the chamber. Crystals above responded, vibrating, glowing, humming in harmony. The memory wells remembered. And something changed. The song of unity moments later, The queen entered the chamber, limping, her armor scratched. Alina ran to her side. "You're hurt. I will heal," she said. "The commander has fled, but others will rise." "You need to tell them the truth," Alina said. "Show them this place. Let them remember." The queen looked at the wells, then at the young. "Drone, they already are." Across Zerelia, strange things began to happen. Drones started humming during work. Old machines activated themselves and played notes no one had heard in centuries. Colors returned to the city walls. Some drones even began to draw. The hive was changing, but not all welcomed it. Deep below, in the old tunnels, the commander and his followers planned their next move. "This song is poison," he growled. "We will root it out, stem and branch, even if we must burn the wells." And with him stood others, thousands. The old minds were waking up, and they would not go quietly. The queen stood in the middle of the memory wells chamber, tense. The silver pool still shimmered with old visions. The soft tune from the music box played, but it couldn't calm the storm inside her. Beside her, Captain Alina Morrow watched quietly. She could feel the tension, like lightning before a storm. "They will come for this place," the queen said softly. "The commander will not stop," Alina nodded. "Then we have to be ready." The young drone who had guided Alina here stepped forward. "We are not many. We have no weapons." "We have memory," the queen replied. "Maybe enough." All across the upper hive, word was spreading. The queen had remembered, and now so had others. Some drones began painting symbols on walls, symbols from the past. Others sang low songs as they worked. Even the guards at the outer gates hesitated when given new orders, but the hive was splitting. The old guard, led by the commander, had begun forming a resistance. They called themselves the Silencers. To them, music was poison, memory was weakness. They believed the queen was no longer fit to rule. They wanted silence to return, and they were preparing for war. Alina walked through the corridors beside the queen, observing the strange transformation. In one chamber, drones gathered to listen to a recording of the music box. In another, they sat in circles, mimicking rhythms with claws and clicking sounds. It felt like something ancient was being born again. But danger was growing too. Queen stopped at a large, dark crystal near the center of the hive. It pulsed with slow, heavy light. "This is the heart of the hive," she said. "If the Silencers reach this, they will control all drone minds." Alina frowned. "Can't we protect it?" "Not by force," the queen said. "They are too many." Alina paused. Then she said, "Then let's reach their minds first." The final note later, that day Alina stood on a high platform, facing a large crowd of drones, some loyal, some unsure. The queen had given her permission to speak directly to the hive. The music box sat beside her, open and ready. Alina cleared her throat. "I know many of you are afraid. You feel something strange, something you don't understand. I felt it too." The crowd was quiet. "This feeling is not weakness," she said. "It's memory. It's who you were, who you still are." She opened the music box. The soft melody filled the space. Some drones flinched. Others leaned forward. "I didn't come here to conquer," Alina continued. "I came here because I believed there was more to your people than war and silence. And I was right." She pointed to the queen. "She remembers. So do your brothers, and so do you." one drone in. The front stepped forward. "But what if we are not meant to feel?" "You already do," Alina said. "You wouldn't be here if you didn't." Far below, in the dark tunnels, the commander listened to a secret recording of Alina's speech. His face was hard, hands clenched into fists. "She poisons the hive," he growled. "We move tonight." The silencers had gathered a great force, thousands of drones ready to march. They would strike the Queen's court, destroy the memory wells, and shut the heart of the hive before the infection of music spread any further. Their goal: erase the past. That night Alina couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony outside her chamber, staring at the glowing hive towers. Soft lights moved inside, like fireflies. Somewhere below, she could still hear drones humming the song, but she also saw shadows moving in the distance. She knew they were coming. The Queen joined her quietly. "They march," she said. "I can feel it through the hive's veins." "We can't stop them," Alina said. "Not by force." "No," the Queen agreed. "But maybe we can change them before they arrive." The next morning, as the sun rose over the hive's tallest towers, something strange happened. From every wall, every corner of the city, a new sound began to rise. It wasn't just the music box anymore. It was voices. Drones had learned the melody. They had added to it clicks, tones, vibrations. The tune echoed across the hive like a living river of sound. It was beautiful. It was impossible to ignore. The silencers marching toward the Queen's chamber paused. Many stopped. Some turned their heads in confusion. Some lowered their weapons. It was working, but the commander would not be moved. He screamed orders, pushing forward, leading a group straight toward the heart of the hive. "Silence them. Destroy." The source. A battle began, but this time it was different. Some drones who had come with the silencers suddenly refused to fight. Others dropped their weapons. Some even began to hum the melody right there in the middle of battle. The commander was furious. He charged forward alone, claws raised, sparks flying. He burst into the heart chamber and found the Queen waiting. She stood in the center of the room, her body glowing with inner light, surrounded by young drones and humming crystals. Music filled the air. "I warned you," the commander hissed. "You have become weak." "No," the Queen said. "I have become whole." He leaped forward, but stopped. Alina stepped in front of him, holding the music box. She pressed the button. The melody played, this time louder than ever. The commander screamed, but something inside him twitched. His body froze, his eyes widened, his breathing slowed. And then he fell to his knees. "No," he whispered, "I remember." The Queen stepped forward and placed a claw gently on his shoulder. "You were not always silent," she said. "You were once my brother. You sang with me when we were small." He trembled. "We were told to forget." He whispered. "But we couldn't," she said. Tears, strange glowing tears, fell from the commander's eyes. "I am sorry." Word of the commander's surrender spread quickly. The fighting stopped. Drones across the hive dropped their weapons and began to hum the old melody. The silencers were no longer an army. They were listeners, and slowly they became part of the song. That evening Alina stood beside the Queen on the tallest platform of the hive. The sun painted the sky with gold and blue. Below, the entire city sang in harmony. The Queen turned to her and spoke softly. You gave us a gift." "No," Alina said. "I gave back what you already had." They stood in silence for a while, listening. Then the queen said, "Will you return to your people?" "Not yet," Alina said with a smile. "I think we have more music to write." The day of the first note, 3 months had passed since the last battle. The hive was no longer the same. Once the zero world had been filled with silence, cold commands, and mechanical order. Now music echoed from every chamber, every tunnel, every mind. The hive had changed, not just in sound but in spirit, and at the center of it all stood the human captain, Alina Morrow. She had arrived on a broken ship, carrying a small music box and a message of peace. Now she was known across the planet as the bringer of memory. But even as the hive thrived in its rebirth, Alina knew her time here was coming to an end. Earth was calling. The queen invited Alina to the central garden, a place that hadn't existed until recently. Zural drones had begun growing things again, strange silver-leaf plants, glowing vines, and crystal flowers that sang when touched by the wind. It was their way of showing emotion, of creating beauty. Alina walked slowly among the garden paths. A few young drones followed her, playing handmade instruments they'd built from old hive parts. The queen stood by a large pool, watching the sky. "You're leaving soon," she said. Alina nodded. "Earth will want to know what happened here. I have a duty." "We understand," the queen said. "But you will always be part of our story," Alina smiled. "And you'll always be in mine." Before her departure, a great celebration was planned, something the Zero had never done before. Not for war, not for victory, but for hope. They called it the Day of the First Note. Drones from every part of the hive gathered in the grand chamber. Crystals hung like stars from the ceiling. Music played in waves, some of it traditional, some completely new. And at the heart of it all stood a stage. Alina was invited to speak. She stepped onto the platform, the music box in her hand. The crowd fell silent, not in fear, but in deep attention. "I came here by accident," she said, her voice strong and calm. "But I believe this was always meant to happen." She looked at the queen. "Once you were told to forget your past, but you didn't, not truly. It lived in your hearts, waiting for a spark." She held up the music box and pressed the button. The lullaby played one last time. "But now," she said, "you don't need this anymore. You've made your own songs." Alina bowed her head. "Thank you for listening to me. But more than that, thank you for listening to yourselves." After the speech, the queen walked on to the stage. For the first time in recorded history, she sang. Not with words, not with power, but with feeling. The hive sang with her. A chorus of voices, vibrations, memories, and hope filled the chamber. Like waves of light, Alina closed her eyes. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. The next day, the ship from Earth arrived, sleek, white, and silent. The humans who came were shocked by what they found, an alien civilization, transformed by art, not weapons, by music, not technology. They had expected war. They found wonder. As Alina prepared to board the ship, the queen approached her with a final gift. It was a crystal orb, small, smooth, and glowing softly. "What is it?" Alina asked. "A memory," the queen said. "Your song, our song, the sound of our rebirth. It will play only when it feels your touch. Alina held the orb close. "Thank you." The queen paused. "Will we meet again?" Alina smiled. "The stars are big, but music travels far." As the human ship lifted into the sky, drones all across the hive looked upward. Some raised instruments, others simply hummed the lullaby that had changed everything. High above the clouds, Alina watched the hive shrink below. She could still hear the music in her mind. Months passed. Alina returned to Earth as a hero. The world was stunned by her story. No one had ever seen such a transformation, an entire alien species embracing something so human, yet so universal. She spoke at conferences, was interviewed by world leaders, and her music box was placed in a museum. But she never gave them the crystal orb that she kept close, a memory that belonged to her and to the queen. One day, years later, as she sat alone watching the stars, the orb began to glow in her hand, and a new melody played. Not the lullaby, something else, stronger, brighter, alive.